Hey guys, in this session we are going to learn the most important skill that every DBA should have related to Oracle. So whenever any table is corrupted, or whenever any table data is mistakenly deleted, or if the table itself is dropped, or if the table data is completely truncated, right? So there will be a lot of scenarios. Okay, so this is when the real skill of the DBA will be highlighted, right? So unless until everything is smooth, people will not know the importance of DBA, right? Unless until if there is any escalations or any data inconsistencies, or which actually impacts the customer, right? So at that time our real value will be showcased. Okay, so it is very important to bring back the data, okay, irrespective of whatever may happen. Okay, so here in this video we are going to see how to bring back only the table data. Okay, it is not specifically related to any set of tables, or it is not related to the whole database, whole database restore or recovery. It is not related to any data file, or not related to any table space. Okay, so the basic skill that every DBA should have is the table recovery, right? So every day we will not be getting any database crashes or database corruptions. So once in a while it happens in the lifetime of a DBA, right? But often application team would be working on the tables. So almost majority of the incidents related to table data inconsistencies or table data loss happens only specific to the table. Okay, so DBAs often focus only on the database crash and database restore and recovery. Often they underestimate the table recovery, but knowingly or unknowingly we would be playing around with the recovery of table data, obviously. Okay, so definitely you would have been in a situation where you need to bring back the data as requested by the application team. Okay, so I will focus on database restore and recovery in a separate session, so let us keep it aside. Okay, so this is completely database restore and recovery is completely a different scenario, right? So when the server crash, or when the data file gets corrupted, or when any table space gets corrupted, right? So both data file and table space are connected, but still if someone dropped the table space, right? So that is something totally a set of data, it's not a specific data. So here we are going to specifically focus on the rows in the table, rows plus the column, right? So obviously we will not be restoring any columns or recovering any columns. The only focus would be the rows in the table, or the whole table itself, the DDL, the whole table structure itself would be lost. So there are multiple scenarios, right? First one would be the few rows. So say for example the one table has 1000 rows, so 100 rows are deleted. So how you will bring back those rows? Second would be all the rows are deleted, so you can take this as a truncate situation, so delete from table. So how you would bring back if the data is already committed, right? So if the data is not committed, then you can easily execute rollback command. That is simple. but once after the commit, how you will bring back. And next one is once you drop the table, right, the whole table structure. So here both structure of the table plus the actual data, both are lost. So in this case, how you will bring back. Okay, so let us come to the technical part. So these are the different operations that may happen, which are very dangerous, in the sense, if we are not carefully executing any of these commands, then it would become dangerous, right? So instead of dropping a backup table, I dropped the actual table, the actual application table. So that is dangerous, obviously. So if I drop the backup table, then that is regular operation, right? So whenever we are executing any of these commands, we always think twice or thrice or even 10 times. We verify and then we execute it, right? So we don't directly just say drop table, the application table. So that would become an outage and downtime. Okay, so in production systems, we should be careful about that. And update with commit, this is not harmful. Okay, so apart from update with commit, rest everything is quite harmful. So even when we focus on the DML commands like delete, if we are not committing the data, then we can easily roll back. But even after deleting the data and again immediately if you are committing it, then that becomes a problem, right? So these are the scenarios, and how we will be what are all the options available and how we can bring back the data, right? So we have these many options available. Okay, but not all the options would be used every time. So the most common one for table level data is flashback. Okay, and we can also depend on the undo. So both flashback and undo are interrelated, or there is a dependency between flashback and undo. So flashback completely relies on the undo retention. So how long this flashback can hold the data, right? So internally Oracle, if you know the architecture of Oracle, Oracle is a read consistent database, right? Which means it has multi-version concurrency control. Oracle creates duplicate or cloned blocks of the original data block, and all the duplicate blocks will be used for reading purpose, the older data, or we can say the undo data or the read consistent data, right? So we can use these two options. Most commonly we'll be using these two options. So beyond that, we will be using some external tools. So external tools are Oracle RMN, Oracle Export Import or Data Pump, and Logminer. So these are very rare cases when it comes to the table recovery. Okay, but if things go out of control, if still we cannot do anything with the flashback or undo, then we have to think about using the RMN or export data backup. Okay, and that too for data pump or export import, we should be having an export backup in place, then only we will be able to use export, right? Otherwise export import option is invalid. And also for RMN, we should be having some backup, right? So if unless until we don't take any backup, then this option is invalid. Both are invalid. And that too for export import, we will not be able to get the latest data, because unless until we don't have any archive logs, we will not be able to get the latest data, right? So whatever table data is dumped in the dump file, only those data can be again imported, right? So we cannot do anything else. So after that we cannot do any point in time recovery, because the SCN in the data file, everything will be not in consistent state. But when we use RMN, we can use a point in time recovery if we have all the archive logs, right? So we have a recover table option which we can use, Okay, and very rare case we can use log miner to rebuild the data, but still this is like only 0.1% of whatever we use. Okay, so obviously when we drop the table we can use flashback, the recycle bin. Though this is very important, right? So in any interviews you will get this question. This is a very basic question, but still there are chances that we may forget this, because in any of these production systems it's very rare that we drop any table, right? Unless until it is a mistake, or unless until we are testing something. So obviously there are chances that we may forget when the table is dropped. We have an inbuilt recycle bin, like how you have recycle bin in your Windows machine, right? So this recycle bin will store all the dropped items in the form of alphanumeric some dollar table. Okay, so you can just get back the data from the dollar table. So if you use drop table with purge option, right, then we cannot do anything. We cannot get back from the recycle bin unless until we don't drop table purge, then we can get the data from the recycle bin. So it should be only drop table name. It should not be drop table name purge, because purging will purge the recycle bin as well. It will drop the original table, and also it will not store the drop table in the recycle bin. So that you need to always remember, that whenever you are dropping a table, so Oracle will be having some recycle bin. Okay, so in the recycle bin it just stores all the dropped table. So if you need that table back, you can immediately get back the table from the recycle bin. Okay, but when you are dropping table with purge option, what it will do, it will drop the data from the actual table structure and the data from the recycle bin as well. So you will not be able to get back. So can undo help? No. When you drop the table, obviously the whole table structure itself will be removed, right? So you cannot use undo, because undo just stores only the read consistent or the older data, right? So Orman can help. So you can just take restore the table or recover the table from the backups. So export import also can help, unless until you have an export backup, exptp backup. So log miner cannot help. So truncate table. So truncate means you are truncating all the data from the table. All the rows will be removed and the high watermark will be reset in the table. So flashback database can help. Okay, and rest of them you already know it, right? So undo will be useful only for the data changes in terms of DMLs. Okay, so for truncate, drop, like all the DDL commands, undo will not be able to help, to be simple. Okay, so this may look confusing, so let me just categorize everything. So DDL cannot be recovered or restored with the undo. Okay, for every DDL statement only flashback can help, either recycle bin or flashback database, and Orman export import can help. For every DML statements, Orman cannot help. Orman or export import cannot help, because when I delete some data without commit, I already have a simple option, right? So I can just simply roll back, right? Because Orman, when you say Orman backups and all, Orman will not know where exactly you deleted, right? So a lot of SCNs will be incremented. So Orman will not be knowing where, at what point of time, and which transaction, and for which transaction slot. So there are a lot of things, right? So at which SCN the data got deleted. So Orman and export import will not be able to help whenever you are deleting some data. Okay, so when you are deleting the whole data, right, so similar to this, delete from table, and then if you commit, then this is similar to truncate, but the only difference is truncate will reset the high water mark, delete will not reset the high water mark, that's it. But both are similar. Your delete from table means it deletes the whole data from the table. Then you can use export import when you are deleting the whole data, right, because you have all the rows in the export dump, right? Or else even if you delete partial data from the table, but still you can use the export import. How? You can just import the table data to a temporary table or a backup table, and then from that backup table, so this is a backup table, okay, this is the original table. So here I have 1000 rows, so I just deleted 100 rows, so I have only 900 rows. This expdp dump has all the 1000 rows, okay, dump file. So I'm just using impdp from the dump. So from the dump I'm just creating a backup table. So backup table will contain all the 1000 rows. Now we can compare both these tables, what data is missing, and if these 100 rows are missing, then you can just insert it. So insert into original table, select star from the backup table, something like that. Okay, so there are a lot of things, so we'll see and explore one by one, but in this session we'll be seeing only the flashback related. Okay, so we'll not be seeing all the options, so because of time constraints. So delete without commit and delete with commit. So delete without commit, you just ignore everything else, you have only the best option and very efficient option, that is rollback. When you delete with commit, then what are the options available, right? So once you commit, what happens? All the online relog file, all the log buffer contents will be, so I'm speaking at the architectural level, all the log buffer contents would be immediately returned to the online relog files, and if any log switch happens, obviously checkpoint occurs. So when checkpoint occurs, all the dirty box will be returned to the data file by the dbwr process. So when you commit the data, you cannot use rollback, so rollback is useless. So at that time you have flashback query. Okay, so this is the most commonly used option. So we'll be using as of timestamp. Okay, so here I mean flashback, which means it is not the actual flashback that is enabled at the database level. This is by default an inbuilt feature available in Oracle, okay, which completely rely on the undo. Okay, so this is not the flashback there is a separate flashback feature, so we enable the flashback at the database level, so that will generate lot of flashback files. Okay, and whenever we want to go back to a point in time, or whenever we want to flashback the whole database to a point in time, we use the database flashback. So database flashback is different and flashback query is different, so we don't need to enable anything for flashback query. Okay, but for flashback database we need to enable flashback on the database level, right? So here flashback query and undo both are same, right? So unless until you have the undo retention, you can just go back to a particular point in time. And Arman and export import, so it may help, but this is quite complex. You may need to create a backup table and copy all those data, so that is quite complex. And log miner also, it's quite complex. Okay, so this is not the efficient way. Okay, you already have other efficient ways to bring back the data, so this will outweigh all the other options available. So update with commit also similar to delete with commit, so you can use flashback query. Okay, so this is the best option, so you can ignore all the rest of the thing. Okay, unless until you don't have the undo retention, the undo data to be retained, then only you have to look for other options. Okay, then wrong commit, so this is also similar, right? So whatever it may be, whether it is a right commit or wrong commit, end of the day I need to get back the data, right? So then drop user with cascade option. So this is also similar to drop table, but here I am dropping the whole user with cascade option, which will remove all the dependent objects as well. So here the only option is to use flashback database. Okay, so I don't have any other options, or I can use Arman, but this is completely a different case because I dropped a set of objects from the whole user. Next one is drop database. So this is not the scope of this session. Okay, as I already mentioned, when you drop the whole database, obviously you need to use Arman or export import backup, but export import backup will not be having all the archive logs. Okay, so only option would be Arman, but we will not be doing all these things in the current video. So yeah, let us go to the scenario. So let us create a temporary table. Okay, so whatever table it may be. Okay, so I'm just creating a sample table. Okay, so now let us just see if flashback is enabled or not. How we will see? So what I am going to check is the flashback database. Okay, not the flashback query. So flashback on. Okay, so this option, what it does is this will enable flashback for the whole database level. So all the previous or the older records would be stored in a flashback log file externally in the file system, either in the fast recovery area or the archive log location, right, wherever we set. So currently if you see, it is no. So this does not mean that flashback query or recycle bin cannot be used. I'm saying does not mean, which means flashback query and recycle bin are inbuilt options. We don't need to enable anything explicitly. Okay, so most of the DBAs may or may not be knowing this, but just wanted to remind you. Okay, we may have chances to forget these. Okay, because obviously flashback query we would be using frequently, and that too depends on the environments, but recycle bin we would not be you already know that, right? We often don't drop any tables unnecessarily, right? And also mistakes happen once in a while. Daily we will not be dropping the table, so we may lose the touch of restoring the table from the recycle bin, or when we use the recycle bin, whenever we are clearing the space. Okay, obviously recycle bin will consume more space in the table spaces. So what we do, we just purge the recycle bin for space related activities, and also whenever we are doing database upgrade, right? So like 12C to 19C or 19C to 23AI. So whenever we are doing upgrade, we purge these recycle bin. Then only during those times we may be remembering recycle bin. So why I am stressing on this point, because this is a very underrated feature or inbuilt feature that we may have chances to forget, but if in interviews definitely you may get this question, so you should be remembering recycle bin. Okay, and also the flashback query, this is you can say almost 80% we will be using this most of the time. So now what I am going to do is I am just going to drop this table. Okay, so I don't have any of the steps with me. Okay, I am just doing it how as it is. Okay, I only have the test case steps and just few of the basic steps. Okay, so now So let me just query this view, DBA recycle bin. Okay, so this is the view where you can see what are all the objects which are stored. Okay, so you just say object name, original name, operation, then you can also get the details like when the table was created, when the table was dropped, on all these details. Okay, just for your information, right? So just imagine someone dropped the EMP test table. Okay, so but the IT department team requires the information about one of the employee's salary, say for example. Okay, so this table was mistakenly dropped, so someone was executing query like this: select star from EMP test. So he gets confused, tabular view does not exist. So he may think whether he has the access to the table or not, whether he is using the right user to access the table, or whether the table exists or not, right? So if the user accessed this table last time, then obviously he may be suspecting on any catastrophes happened on this table, right? So yeah, we can use this view. Okay, DBA recycle bin where object name is equal to EMP test. So even though the recycle bin is on, but still why I am not able to see this table under DBA recycle bin? So that we need to identify. Okay, so now we need to understand the table. Okay, so what segment is this? And which table space this segment residing? Oh, okay. So we don't have the table itself, right? Obviously, so we will not be able to know where exactly this segment has been created. So now what I will do is, let me again recreate this scenario. So now I created this table under users table space. Okay, so unless until I drop this table will not go under recycle bin. So what I will do next is, let me drop this table. Okay, so now again let me check the recycle bin. Yeah, so now if you see, I got one record. So what is the record? We don't need to guess anything. It is the employee table. So it should be, yeah, it will not come under the DBA segments. It should be under oh yeah, it should be under DBA recycle bin. So I am using the wrong query. Yeah, so now if you see, we got this table copied under the DBA recycle bin. So this is what we expected, right? So if you see, what is the object name? So it is having some bin $V8, some alphanumeric value, and original table name this AMP test and operation happened was drop, and how much space this table is consuming, right? So when we are recovering, we also need to make sure that we estimate the space. That is very important, right? So if we don't know the space, obviously we end up with space errors. So imagine if a table is in terabytes, okay, so you are again bringing back the table from the recycle bin. So already the size of this table would be huge, 1 TB, and again if you are recovering it from the recycle bin to the original schema, to the user's table space, then obviously you may need double the amount of size, because what Oracle does internally, it just copy this table. So here restoring or recovery means it is just copying the table from the recycle bin, that's it, right? So obviously you may need to estimate the space as well. Okay, so now I got the table from the recycle bin. So earlier we were not able to see the table because I created this table, but I created this table without specifying any table space. So currently I am using sysuser. So what happened is sysuser's by default table space is system table space. So also there is a learning for you. So whenever you are dropping any table from the system table space, those table will not go to the recycle bin. Only if there is any application table space, right, only those data would go to the recycle bin. So that we need to keep in mind. Whatever data or table that is in the system table space or sysocs table space, right, temporary table space, undo, so these and all it would be ignored for the recycle bin. So apart from that, if there are any application table spaces, only those data would go. Okay, so yeah, this was an unexpected scenario. Okay, I didn't expect this. When I just created this table, I just created normally, but I did not expect that it would go to the system table space. Okay, so these kind of issues you may encounter, right? So when you just try checking the recycle bin, and if you don't see that table, then obviously it may be there may be few reasons. So when I'm dropping the table, I'm just using drop table name followed by purge option. So there is another option, purge recycle bin, purge DBA recycle bin. And the table was created under system non-users table space or non-application table space. So these are the scenarios when you will not be seeing the objects under the DBA recycle bin. So when you are purging, recycle bin would be purged. When you are dropping the table with purge option, recycle bin data would be purged. And when you are creating the data, the table under the system table space, you will not be able to see the object. So these are the most common scenarios. So yeah, let us come back to the restore. Okay, so this is the one, recycle bin should be on. Okay, so then we already selected the data, so and we got this format of table. Always remember that whenever you are seeing bin dollar followed by some alphanumeric value, then this means that this is a recycle bin object. Okay, so obviously in some of the databases this object would be consuming huge space. As I already mentioned, if the table size is already in terabytes, then this object also would be consuming more space. So it will consume your table space size, I mean the space in the table space. Okay, the size would be huge. So obviously you may need to do some maintenance to drop these tables as well at a regular interval. You cannot keep it as long as you can. unless until you are okay with the storage, right? So whenever you are dropping the table, you just keep the recycle bin object for few months or few weeks. Okay, so once after the confirmation from the application team that this object is no longer needed, you can just purge it. That is also one of the maintenance activity that DBAs do, right? So we cannot keep these objects permanently. So whenever you are seeing this object with bin dollar symbol, then you should remember always that it is a recycle bin object. So even in interviews they may ask, so what would be the object which starts with bin dollar? Okay, so you can immediately say that it is a recycle bin object, and it was due to a drop table. So yeah, we can use this option flashback table. Table name to before drop. This is the keyword. Okay, so now I got the table back. Okay, so this is a very simple option, so that you need to be knowing, right? It is just a 1 minute or 1 second work, right? So if the table size is huge, then it may take some time, right? So now we just recovered the table from the previous drop. Okay, so again let us just check if this table exists. So the moment when I brought back the original table from the recycle bin, we don't see any objects under DBA recycle bin. So what Oracle does is, Oracle just copied the data from the recycle bin to the original table space, users table space, and then it just dropped it automatically. Okay, but during the copy process, obviously Oracle needs some extra space. So at that time you may need to check the space constraints as well on the table space. So this is just a, you can say, KB size table. Okay, this is not that much, it's just a 5 KB table, so 5 KB or 5 MB. So this is not that much big in size, right? Yeah, so next, if another table already exists with the same name, what you can do? What you can do is, you can just flashback the table to before drop and then rename it to the new table. So this is also another option, right? So let us see this as well. I am again dropping the table. Okay, so now I am just creating another table called emp underscore test after the drop. So I cannot do anything. Right? So now what we can do? So previously what we did, flashback table name to before drop. It was simple as that. We didn't do anything else. But now if I do the same thing, you get this error. Original name is used by an existing object, right? So now we need to rename this table to something else. Okay, so now what we can do, we got the original table to a temporary table, right? So now you can either drop the original, drop this new table and just rename this table to emp test. So whatever you can do, that depends on your situation. So either I can drop this or I can just rename this original table to 1, and again I can rename this to emp test. Simple. Okay, but always this requires downtime. Whenever you are renaming the table, this requires downtime. Okay, so yeah, what you can do is either you can rename the table like this, or you can truncate the original table and insert the data from the old table to the new table. There are a lot of options. Okay, so now let us again check if the table exists, the recycle bin. It is not there. Okay, so now I'm again going to drop the table. Okay, now I got the object from the DBA recycle bin. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to purge DBA recycle bin. So now if you see, this object would be removed from the recycle bin. Now I cannot do anything. So this is the case. We should be careful. Before we are purging the recycle bin, we should always cross check whether the table older table data is older table that is stored in the recycle bin is needed or not. Then only we should drop. So now we cannot do anything once we drop it from the recycle bin. So we have other options. So if we have the backup, Orman backup, we can just bring back the table from the Orman backup, right? So let us go to the next scenario. Okay, developer accidentally drops a production table. Recovery time is less than 2 seconds. No downtime. So yeah, so this we already seen. Purge the recycle bin, drop the table with purge option. Right, so this is what we see. So in this case, either we can use Orman, export import, or flashback database. Okay, Orman would be the best option, right? Because Orman has both the archive logs and the previous SCN and point in time information. Export import does not have the archive logs information, right? It just only copies the data or import the data only from the dump file which was created during the export. That's all. Whatever changes that happened after that dump export, you lose that data. And flashback database, so this is only useful whenever you are going to a specific SCN. That's it, right? But whenever you are focusing on a specific table, you cannot entirely flashback the database, right? So if table is dropped, if a table is dropped at 10 a.m. and at 11 a.m. again I need to bring back using flashback database. So I can either use point in time recovery, flashback point in time, or I can use SCN. But when you use point in time or SCN option, whatever changes happened after that, after 10 a.m., like say for example, ABC was the table which was dropped, but after 10 a.m. XYZ, MNO, QRS, so there are a lot of other tables which got changed. So when you are going back to a specific point in time at 10 a.m., all these changes would be lost. So that is another issue. You cannot just bring the flashback the whole database just for one specific table. So that is a problem, right? So next one is truncate table. So I will again rename test1 to employee test. Okay, now I am truncating the table. So what truncate does is, truncate will remove all the rows from the table and reset the high water mark. It cleans all the internal fragmentations. Also it does an implicit commit. So once the truncate happens, we don't need to commit explicitly, which means we don't need to do a manual commit. Oracle automatically commits the truncate statements. So we cannot do any rollback, we cannot do any flashback, right? So we cannot do flashback query as well because we lost all the rows. So one option would be to use flashback database if enabled, or recover the entire database to a specific SCN before the truncate, or we can create an Orman auxiliary instance and export the table and import the table, or we can use data pump. So these are the different options that we can do whenever truncate happens. Yeah, but still, let me just truncate the table. Okay, so we have flashback query option, so we can try that as of timestamp. So what is the current time? Just take the time. So as of timestamp, sys timestamp minus interval 5 minutes. So if you see, when I'm trying to use as of timestamp, right? So if any subset of rows are removed, then what I can do, I can just use this undo. Okay, undo contains all the read consistent older data. So I can use the undo to go back to the previous changes. But here I just truncated the table. So what truncate internally do is, truncate change the table structure itself, as I already mentioned. So here you need to learn the technical architecture as well, right? So difference between truncate and delete. So delete will not reset the high watermark. But truncate will reset the high watermark. Truncate will remove all the rows. Irrespective of whatever condition that is, it will remove all the rows. But delete also can remove all the rows and also a subset of rows. Truncate will do implicit commit. But for delete, we can it does explicit commit, which means manual commit is required. We can roll back the transaction in a delete, but we cannot roll back the transaction in a truncate. And delete will not reset the high watermark. Yeah, that I already mentioned. And delete will generate a lot of redos. So when you focus on performance standpoint, delete will generate a lot of redos and undos, because delete will not delete can be easily rollback or recovery. So for rollback purpose, delete generates a lot of redo and undo. But truncate you cannot roll back, right? So that's the reason truncate will generate very less redos or undos. So these are the different difference between truncate and delete. So now you understood, right? So when I truncate the table, the whole structure itself is changed. The internal extents, the internal blocks, every structure at the segment level structure is changed. So once the high watermark is reset, the flashback query will not be able to check the previous data. So that's the reason we are getting unable to read data. Table definition has been changed. So max what you can try is, even we cannot do flashback, right? Because I have not dropped the whole table. I just removed all the rows from the table. So object is not in recycle bin, right? So the only option would be to restore from the Orman backup. Okay, or if I have flashback enabled, I can try flashback table. So what I will do is, let me just shut down the database. Yeah, it is shut down immediate. So if you want to enable flashback at the database level, you need to bring back the database in mount state and then enable flashback. So this flashback enables flashback at the database level, and it also generates additional logs. Okay, you need additional storage on the file system or the ASM level if you are using rack or ASM. Okay, so now flashback database is on. Okay, as I already mentioned, flashback query is different. Flashback query is an inbuilt feature. You don't need to enable anything. It just uses the undo read consistent data to go back. But whenever we execute any DDL, this option would be useless. So like truncate or drop. But for DML statements, this is the only efficient option which can easily help you to go back to the previous state. So now I enable flashback. Okay, so let me just create the table. Okay, already the table exists. Drop table. Now I created a table. Okay, so let me also purge the table from the recycle bin, because obviously since I dropped the table again. Okay, so yeah, so I think this table was created under system user, so let me drop the table again. Okay, not system user, system table space. Okay, so I need to change the table space to users in order for the recycle bin to work. So now flashback is enabled. Okay, show parameter db recovery file dist. So this is the area where the flashback data will be stored, and also you need to check the undo. So undo retention. So what is undo retention? Here it is 5 minutes. So undo retention is specifically needed for this flashback query. Okay, so now let me just check this particular directory. Okay, so now if you see, we got a separate folder which was created for flashback. Okay, so I also see FLB files. So these FLB files records all the changes. Okay, so you need additional storage for these. Also, if you have enabled flash recovery area, all the space would be consumed from the DB recovery file disk size. So beyond 12 GB you cannot store any flashback data. All the existing flashback files would be overwritten, or there may be some corruptions, right? So if the database may get hang if the space gets full, right? So now I did some changes, whatever changes, drop table, create table, after the flashback is enabled. So all these changes would be recorded in these files. Okay, so now let me again truncate the table. So let me just say flashback table. Okay, so now if you see, the user that I am using is sys user. Again, there is a problem, right? So similar to how previously we got the issue with the system table space, I cannot use any administrative user or administrative table space whenever I use flashback, right? So now what I will do is I will just drop the table. Okay, So I am just using some sample user. Now I create emp test table. Now I am truncating the table. Okay, so now if you see, I truncated the table. Okay, I also enabled flashback at the database level, right? So the moment when I execute this flashback table command, I am getting cannot flashback the table because row movement is not enabled. So always you need to keep this under consideration whenever you are using flashback to go back to the previous state. So if I just use this option, unable to read data, table definition has been changed. Okay, so now let me just drop the table again. Okay, so these are the learnings. Okay, so whenever you are seeing the errors, then only you will remember what all needs to be done before you enable the flashback, or bring back the table using the flashback, right? So if I just directly just execute this, then if you get back the data, then you will not be able to learn anything like what else needs to be done. So what you have to do is just create the table. Okay, alter table, table name, enable row movement. Okay, so now I'm just truncating the table. Let me try the query. So obviously, as I already mentioned, flashback query is not efficient for all the DDL statements, right? So now let me use the flashback table feature. Okay, so now if you see, still even if I use flashback table after the row, after I enable the row movement, once the table structure is changed, right, I cannot still use the flashback. Okay, so these both are similar. So flashback table or flashback query are similar. So we don't need flashback database to use these options. So flashback database is completely different, right? So flashback database means which goes back to a specific SCN or timestamp. Okay. So only option that I can use is flashback database. Okay, or if I have Arman backup, I can use that. Arman backup is also one of the other ways. Okay, flashback database to timestamp. Oh, okay, so I don't have the privileges because I am connected with test user. Yeah, so again, when I use the flashback, I need to mount the database as well. So if you see, these many errors are happening. Okay, so only when you see these errors, you will be able to understand what is happening in the behind. So when I use the flashback query or the flashback table, I am not able to read the data because table definition itself has been changed. Okay, so that's the reason I enabled flashback database. Okay, but yeah, obviously when you are using flashback database, it will go back to the previous state. Whatever changes happened, everything will be lost. So I'm just going back to 5 minutes before the drop, not before the truncate. Okay, so whenever you are doing an incomplete recovery, this is kind of an incomplete recovery, right? So I need to reset the logs. So when you are resetting the logs, what happens is new incarnation would be created. So if you go to Arman, So it is kind of a death and rebirth of any humans. Okay. Okay, so if you see, the current incarnation is happening at this particular SEM. So now I reset the logs. So if you see the specific time, it is current time. Okay, so the moment when I reset the logs, Oracle Orman will create a new record entry in the incarnations. So now one new entry has been added, because it, as I already mentioned, it is kind of a human death and rebirth, right? So when we reset the logs, you can imagine the human died, and he was he got rebirth in the form of another person, in the another person's body. His soul got rebirth to another person. So people used to tell that, right, in terms of death and rebirth. So it is kind of that. So you can take the parent and the child. So when the parent or the older grandparent dies, so their soul would be coming into the new child or the new babies. They will be born as the new baby, and people used to say that the grandparent's soul has been rebirth in the form of new baby. So something like that. So here, this is the parent. Parent got death, and again a new child is born. So this becomes the current SEM. Okay, all the memories would be updated in the current incarnation, like how the soul gets the memory of the previous incarnation. Okay, so now we can see the data. So I truncated the table EMP test. Now I can just say select count of star from test.emp test. Okay, so I never know at what time the table was truncated and the table got dropped. If you see, it says table itself not exist. So let me check if this table exists. Yeah, so this table got exist. Why? Because I truncated the table with the sys user at this point of time, right? So Oracle just flashback the data at this particular point, but after that whatever changes happened were lost. So this is what the drawback of using flashback database. So I just given interval flashback database to in timestamp sys timestamp minus interval 5 minutes, before 5 minutes. So whatever changes happened during that 5 minutes of interval are lost. So I should exactly give that interval to get the table data under the test user. Okay, so now you would be understanding. So these are the options for truncate. Okay, so we also have other options. So Orman, these are quite tedious tasks. Okay, so next comes the delete without commit. Okay, so this is a straightforward option. We don't need to do anything. So let me connect to this user, create a table, delete from this table. So I mistakenly deleted all the records from the table. So if I just check the rows from the table, it is 0. So what I can do, it is as simple. If I don't commit it, I can easily roll back. So this is a simple option, right? So all the changes can be taken from the redo, online redos and archive logs. Next is delete with commit. So this is quite different compared to delete without commit. So we need to do some additional steps. Okay, so now I'm deleting all the rows from the table. I mistakenly committed the transaction. So now I don't have any rows. Okay, so this is where you see the difference between truncating the table and deleting the table. So why deleting the table generates a lot of redos and undos? Because we can easily recover the data, but for truncate, as you already seen, we cannot do anything else apart from flashback the whole database to a particular point. Or if we have any export backup or orman backup, we may need to do some additional adjustments to get the data somehow. It is not quite straightforward. But now when I committed the transaction with delete, it is straightforward. So what I can do is select count of star from EMP. Okay, so okay, so now even though I deleted the records, it still says unable to read data, table definition has changed. Okay, so now if you see, when I specified 5 minutes, timestamp minus interval 5 minutes, it is checking the previous older data. Okay, older data means when I truncated, right? Before 5 minutes, whatever actions I did, I truncated the whole table. So it will exactly go and check during that timestamp. So you should be careful whenever you are specifying the interval. So if I say timestamp timestamp minus interval 5 minutes, it will go and check before whatever changes happen before the 5 minutes. So during that time I truncated the whole table. So obviously I get this output. I cannot recover the data when I truncate because the whole table definition would be changed, right? So, and I also checked for 1 minute, so timestamp minus interval 1 minute, and it is showing count of star 0. So this particular timestamp it is showing. So when you given 2 minutes, so it is going back before delete and just showing this data. Okay, now again let me just check. When you see sys timestamp minus interval 2 minute, again it is showing 0 because from current time minus interval 2 minutes it is showing this data. So I need to further increment the time. So here you have other options as well. Okay, if you want to exactly specify the timestamp when the change happened, you can just use _timestamp and specify the exact date and time. So that also will help. Something like this, _timestamp or yeah, let me try this, dd something like this. So you also need to check the time also. Exact time. Something like this. if you see the format of the time, you are getting a lot of issues with the format of the time, right? That is the problem. Now if you see, I specified the exact timestamp, so it is saying unable to read the data. So let me again check with 727, 728, 729, okay, so I don't exactly remember the format. Okay, so these formats change over the different Oracle versions. Okay, so I may need to check what exactly is the format. Okay, so you don't need to remember these things and all. You can just take it from any of the Oracle white papers. Okay, these formats may keep on changing, so you need to specify the correct format. But yeah, now let me just use this interval, just say 5 minutes. Let us focus on the recovery part. Okay, so what I need is, I just need the exact data before the delete. So why I am not able to get the data now? That is another question, right? I remember this, that when we checked the undo retention, right? So undo retention is only 5 minutes. So that's the reason beyond 5 minutes I am not able to get the older data. So you need to keep in mind this as well. And undo retention does not always guarantee that you will get the older data. If some other transaction is consuming the unexpired data, if the older data is expired, then also you cannot be able to do anything. So now I will not be able to do anything unless until I can use any Orman backups or any other options. Okay, so now again what I need to do is I need to again show you the test case. So drop table emp test show user. Now again let me create the table, let me delete the data. Within 5 minutes I need to do all these things, so that is the scope. So let me delete the data. Meanwhile let me just mark the timestamp as well. So at 7:34 we are deleting the data and also committed mistakenly. So now I need to get back the previous data. So if I say 1 minute, I will be getting the, okay, so test.emp, I am not able to get it. So let me just say 2 minutes. Three minutes. Okay. So I think some other transaction is using undo. Okay, I'm not sure, but earlier when we are checking the data, older data, we were able to get it, right? So we just need to copy all the data. That's it. Copy all the data, the older data, using this select star from test.emp as of timestamp to a temporary table, and then just let me do one thing. I increase the undo retention. Okay, so now let me again drop the table, create the table, delete the records, commit the transaction. Okay, so it says table definition, still it is changed. Okay, let us do one thing. Okay, let me create some other table, emp test1 table space user. Now let me okay, so let me just enable the row movement. So what it says is query parsed after table or index change executed with old snapshot. Action commit transaction or re-execute. So we have not changed any table structure, but yeah, since it is acting weird. Okay, so what I will do is let me just shut down the database. Let me just disable the flashback. Okay. Okay, so I think something has changed in the database, so it should not act in this way. Okay, so what you will do is, once you get the data, right, the older data from the flashback query, you will just copy the data to the temporary table and then insert it from the temporary table to the original table. So that's what you do. Okay, so now if you see, we got the data. So immediately before the data is gone, I will just create a temporary table. Now immediately what I will do, I will just insert into this backup table, select star from EMP test as of timestamp interval -1. So now if you see, it has inserted almost 86,000 rows. So let me just roll back. Okay, so how many rows got deleted? 20,000, 2 lakh, almost 2 lakh rows has been deleted, but it inserted only 86,000. So let me go back to 2 minutes. But when I specify 2 minutes, it is inserting all the rows, right? So let me again roll back. Let me again try with 1 minute. So I need to specify the exact timestamp. That is the case here. If I don't specify the exact timestamp, then it may go back to the flashback with the undo, and it may check that particular point in time. So here I'm just giving some interval. Okay, so that's why it is not fetching the exact data during the delete. So let me try 3. So yeah, anyway, this is the way of getting back the data. Okay, so even though it is not exactly 20,000, I mean 2,464 rows, but still I just need to recover only the data which was deleted related to the package type, where type is equal to package. But it is here, it is getting all the data. Okay, that should not be the case. So I need to specify the exact timestamp, so that you need to remember. Okay, but for exact timestamp I need to check the format. So you also go and check the exact timestamp. So yeah, once you copy the data from the flashback query to the temporary table, what you need to do is, again you just insert into original table. What is the original table? This is the original table. Select star from this temporary table. That's it. Okay, but in original in the production system, what you need to do, you should not restore or recover all the data from the undo flashback. Only the data which got deleted, right, or whatever requirement is there from the application. So if application team says that I deleted this many rows, I specifically want the rows which got deleted, not the whole data. Then you need to ask the application team that what time the data got deleted and how many records were deleted. Then once you get a point, I mean once you get all the points that you need, then you just specify 2_timestamp, not the interval, but here I'm just specifying interval just because to make things easier. But when you specify the exact timestamp, then only you will be able to see the exact data. So here I should have checked the time before deleting. So then I would specify that exact timestamp here. So I will get this many number of rows when I use this query. Then immediately what I do, I just insert that insert into a temporary table. I could just create a temporary table first, and then insert the older deleted records to a temporary table. Once I get all those deleted records, I again insert it back to the original table. That's how it works. Okay, so still there are a lot of things. Okay, so because of time constraint, it would not be feasible to continue in the same session. Maybe in future sessions I would help you in understanding the recovery options much better. So thanks for watching. So just hit a like if you need more interesting videos and more critical videos which are very important skills for the DBA. Okay, also subscribe for more interesting secrets related to database.